There are thousands of new members coming onto Vive each day. They're buying gems, going for the drops, trading on the marketplace, and it's great to see the growth that they're having. But from a logical perspective, does it make sense to get into Vive right now? Should you be thinking about it as an investment strategy, or is it just something you should go on to enjoy? Today, we're going to be talking about that. Welcome everyone, my name's Andy, and I appreciate you taking some time out your day to come and watch this video on the channel. Just before we get going, if you are enjoying the content and you want to support me further, you can hit that subscribe button, and if you want to support me further than that, you can join the membership. The video I made on Friday, I talked about Vive as a whole, just my general thoughts on the marketplace and everything that was going on, and it seemed to get quite good feedback on just a general overview, because obviously there's some people who think everything's going to crash and burn and go to zero, and then there's other people who think it's going to go to 1 billion. And it's a hard balance to make, because as we've said, when it comes to investments, emotional attachment becomes sky high. Everything is surrounded by money. Today, I wanted to sort of go over a logical perspective for someone who's not been in Vive yet, or has just gotten into Vive and trying to understand it a little bit further. If it actually makes sense, if it's something you should just be on for the fun of it, and maybe what to do moving forward. And that's exactly why I want to talk about some of this stuff. Vive actually grew a lot more than they had ever wildly thought that they could grow to, because in last year of 2021, their aim was for a user base of 65,000 users by the end of the year, and I believe that was actually downloads that they were wanting. Now, if we're taking active monthly users with the last confirmation that we got, we have 1.9 million. Now, going from 65,000 to 1.9 million is quite a stretch. And also, you're not taking into account the user base just in general. Now, with those 1.9 million, I'm guessing there's going to be multiple accounts, things that are not there. So I would probably say we're likely sitting at around maybe 1.2, 1.3 actual users when it comes to monthly active users. There's probably a couple 100,000 that are maybe not using it, have went on it for the first time and are just never going back. But even at that, 65,000 downloads to about 1.2, 1.3 potential active monthly users. It's quite a big jump. This to me just shows the level that they've been able to grow so quickly, and really does give them some credit about what they've been able to create for people and the emotional attachment that people have been able to establish with these biggest brands. The biggest factor that Vive has right now going for them is their licensor ability. They have the likes of David Yu and Alfred Kahn in their team, him being an advisor for Ikomi, who was the person that brought Pokemon to Western Europe, has sort of made Pokemon what it is today. It's not to say it wouldn't be successful elsewhere, but he did have a big part in that, and is considered one of the best when it comes to licensors just in general in the world. So having this first mover's advantage where you have over 130 brands signed with the likes of Disney, Marvel, DC, Cartoon Network, Star Trek, Back to the Future, and so many others that haven't even been released yet, it does bring some eyes to this product and shows that they have the ability to really make noise in a place that's just starting out and a new technology is forming. This also makes it really easy when we look in regards to NFTs and what they are as a whole. Right now, I would say if you're getting onto the likes of OpenSea, it's very complicated, it's very tedious, it's quite scary actually, because contracts are very difficult to understand, as well as some rug pulls and a bunch of other things that have been happening as of recently. If you were on last night and you've been on OpenSea, you know there was a massive phishing scam that was going on where a lot of people lost a lot of money due to clicking one thing that took everything away from them. Now, when it comes to Vive, that hasn't happened yet really, and it's because it's more centralized and therefore backed by those brands and has to sort of run a lot differently to the way OpenSea does, which could make some form of security for yourself if you're looking to get into NFTs somewhere and don't really want the potential of being scammed the way other things will. It's not to say Vive as a whole is perfectly safe and everything's fine and everything's going to do well, but it's just an understanding that OpenSea compared to Vive in terms of security do run quite differently. It allows our average consumer just to dip their toes in a little bit, to connect their bank account, put in some gems, and then go onto the marketplace and buy things from the brands that they love. Buy a Harley Quinn, a Batman, a Superman, a Star Wars character. There's abilities to buy different things that they know and love already, making it quite easy for their emotional attachment to match up with what's already on the app. When you're looking something on OpenSea, you know, you're matching it up with a brand that has just started last year. It hasn't had decades to establish itself, its consumers, its customers, and actual loyal fans to this product. This is why Vive right now stands out from the crowd. They have been able to match themselves up with these biggest brands in the world and consistently sell out in regards to this. They've brought digital comics, digital collectibles, artists and more into a space that has a lot of tension going on with it right now. There is the majority who do not want anything to do with them, and a minority who are maybe accepting this digital change that is happening right now. If we're looking at on a wider scope of what it is, if this is something that we are truly terrified of right now, and as a consumer are truly terrified of this digital space and what NFTs stand for, strip that name away from it, NFTs just in general, and focus on digital collectibles. Things you can collect from the stuff that you love. Don't inherently have to be classified as NFTs, but more so digital collectibles and what they actually are. Now, if it's in that case, then you're here for the collectibles themselves. You're buying a Todd McFarlane Batman because you love Todd McFarlane as an artist, his Batman character and depiction, and therefore have the attachment to that. I've even got the Todd McFarlane physical now because of the NFT version or the digital collectible version, whichever you'd like. So from that perspective, you really are able to become a part of a company that has the most trusted brands in the world. The ones that you've grew up on and have continued to love even as you've grown up. And that's why for me, when it came to dipping my toes into certain areas, Vive made more sense. I'd already trusted the brands that were a part of that, and therefore if I was trying anything, then Vive was that one to try. However, that comes to probably the main negative of Vive as a whole and wanting to get into that. And that is MTL, or not being able to get your money out as of right now. I've had discussions about this before, and we've discussed it in a lot of videos as well, but MTL is money transmitter license. It's basically a license that allows Vive for you to take your gems out, the in-app currency, to fiat, which is USDT, GDP, any country that you're actually involved in that allows and complies with this. So as of right now, you can't do that through the app. You can do it through escrow, but again, a lot of people are a little bit hesitant when it comes to that sort of stuff, and you're also not getting as much as you would if you were to take it out probably through the app. We've been advised that we're going to have a 10% fee when it comes to what you're taking out of the app, and a minimum of 50 gems being taken out. So there is going to be a fee on the app when you are taking it out, but it's definitely not as much as it would if you were doing escrow right now. The only ability you have to actually take it out through fiat. This is probably everyone's biggest turn off when it comes to this, because what Vive started with was to try and allow people who loved collecting physically and just loved these biggest brands to collect the digital assets from them. You're being able to collect the Avengers logo, C-3PO, Walt Disney. You've also got things like Bubbles, Blossom, Buttercup from the Powerpuff Girls, the DeLorean from Back to the Future. There's everything that they aimed to do is on the app. They are wanting you to collect digitally to establish this new era that we might be moving into in regards to the metaverse and what that could actually play out as and actually be. But it quickly turned into a potential investment strategy for people, and were able to make significantly more profit than they would from when they bought it on the app. We're able to change $7 into $70,000 with Marvel Comics 1 Secret Rare. So there was a shift in narrative when it came to people who came to digitally collect what they love to then an investor strategy. But then having no access to that money in an easy format the way you can on the likes of OpenSea or an investment like a stock quickly became a negative format that they hadn't brought this out yet. Weren't able to take it out due to the closed ecosystem. I talked about this on Friday's video about not actually having definitive ideas of how easy or complicated MTL is. For me, it does seem more on the complicated route, and it definitely goes that way when it comes to a variety of countries you're wanting to allow access to having this actually available. So in that regard, I know it takes time, but the issue was the false promises that happened previously, which didn't allow us to have more trust in the company and what they were doing. Therefore, there's that mix match where you've got new people coming in, showed that we're going to bring out MTL in the next recent months and has yet to happen. Therefore, may have lost some trust and again, might not believe in what the company's aims or direction that they're going is the most credible one. For me personally, who's been here for nearly a year now, I still trust in the company and what they're doing, from going from 65,000 users AIM by the end of 2021 to 1.9 million active users. It kind of seems that there's been a shift that they didn't even expect themselves and probably could never expect. It's the same as the brands and the licensors and the companies that are backing Vive right now probably never expected the success that they've been able to see so quickly. They're at their projections of 2024 and 2022, and that is in the beginning of Q1. So that shift is something that many people can't ever never actually guess is going to happen. Companies work on structure of plans that they're going for. They're aiming for these targets, set the targets, and they work backwards on how to actually get towards them. And being able to get there so quickly probably skewed their results a little bit and have not actually been able to move forward with certain things they wanted to, as now there's a lot more people and a lot more eyes on them. I'm not trying to give Vive excuses here. I'm just trying to give you a logical perspective of maybe what's happened within the company and are now having to reevaluate everything that's going on because there's a lot more eyes on them. Also, is to add on to the fact that crypto laws really aren't that established right now. Countries don't know what to do and are trying to work out exactly what the best route forward for them is in compliance with their laws for their specific country. Therefore, they're having to adapt and shift every single time that something changes to make sure they're ahead of the game and are not being brought lawsuits left, right, and center when it comes to this. So as a consumer myself, you have to establish right here what your aim is for this. Are you in here for the investment or are you in here for the digital collecting? I have now shifted towards a little bit of both as I've been able to make my initial investment back from what I actually put into Vive. So therefore, to me, everything else that I've got there is just money I'm okay to play around with. I can lose it and I'd be all right with that. And NFTs are still the most speculative investment they have. I have to understand that as the forefront. It's something that can make us a lot of money. It's also something that can make us lose a lot of money. And we saw that with the recent market crash. If people got in the euphoria time back in January of this year, we saw the all-time highs for most of the collectibles, with a lot more new people coming into this space because they saw money bags in their eyes and therefore get burnt out because they didn't do their research and therefore FOMO'd into something that they hadn't actually looked at or understood. And it's not to say that I don't think some of these things will probably surpass those prices that they reached at their all-time high in the future. But as of right now, we're in quite murky waters when it comes to crypto laws, NFTs in general, how people feel about them, digital assets, and the way the world is currently moving. This again adds on to the fact that once MTL does arrive, do we see a market crash the same way Top Shot saw their market crash with the NBA cards? Now, this could be the case or it could alter, as many people have said they're not getting into Vive because you can't take your money out. So when you can take your money out, is that going to attract them into this app because they can collect the things that you've loved, grown up with? As a guess, you'll have to make on your own using speculation or as best logic as you can to how users may react when it comes to this. For me personally, I think a lot of new people will actually come into this space as they establish this further, because not getting your money out is maybe one of the advantages that a lot of companies need when it comes to an investment. However, I do see more people getting into this space as the market levels itself out. There will be things that will be able to stand the test of time, and there are things that won't be. NFTs are currently in a bubble in my opinion, and I do believe they have to crumble before we actually build the true structure that we will see with what NFTs, cryptocurrencies as a whole, can develop themselves in the world that we're living in today. Right now, we're sitting at a majority of despising what they are, maybe due to a lack of education and due to genuine fundamental problems that cryptocurrencies and NFTs hold as of right now. But I do believe they can have a future for ourselves, and we need to sort of burst that bubble before we find those true builders of this generation. This again leads me to the next point, being app speed, development, and more. This crypto region moves a lot quicker than anything else. So the expectations of Vive have been matched up with expectations of other companies that have been here for a very short time. Everything moves very quickly, and a month in the NFT space is usually equivalent to about a year in just the normal world. Therefore, their speed and movement might not match up to the way people were actually expecting, and the app development certainly could be moved further forward. But I know they've probably got a lot on their plate right now, and therefore have to put some things at halt in order to focus on others that they believe is going to make their business more successful in a shorter period of time. Whether we'd like to admit it or not, Vive can be a form of investment right now, and it can be a form of digitally collecting what you love. There's two sides to it, and for me personally, I think it's always important to dip your toes into the water of new things that are coming out. Yes, it might not pay off and it might not be something that actually lasts very long for you, but learning and educating yourself on new things that are coming out going to help you become more critical and more understanding of what this space can offer as a whole. It might be the best thing you do, it might be the worst thing you do, but the only way you can actually learn is through your own experience. You can listen to all the YouTube videos you want and watch all the content creators, but at the end of the day, you're never going to truly learn what it offers until you dive into it. That's why I never really want to listen to people who don't do their research on certain aspects, because if they only do research and never actually experience it, then they're never going to truly know what this has to offer. Economy and Vive as a whole have a lot of issues. just like every other company in the world. They all try to work their best to make their consumers as happy as they possibly can. And aiming for 65,000 users to now 1.9 million active users in basically just over a year of their app being out really has managed to break barriers they probably never thought they could in such a short period of time. For me, I think it's important to try these new things. It might not again be for you, and that's okay. It might be an opportunity to find a community, to find people who enjoy what you enjoy, and to collect what you love through the process of being a part in this together. I do believe Vive will be successful in the future. I think they have a lot of issues that need to be solved, but have been able to actually overcome a lot in a very short space of time with a smaller team, something that they definitely need to increase over the next coming months, which I'm sure they will be. If you're someone who goes purely on safe bets and you don't have the extra income in order to get in here, don't get in. It's not worth it. The most speculative investments that you could make, invest in an ISA or a 401k or wherever you are in the world that is your safest bet, do that. Max those out first, and if you have any extra income left over, dip your toes in more speculative investments. Try to make a little bit more money here and there, or find a community you love through digital collecting. It's the best way to go about it, because at the end of the day, we don't know where the future is going to lie, and we don't know how the future is going to play out. If you do your research and have your solid proof as to why or why not you're getting involved in this, you can't really get burnt because you've done the research to understand it as best as you possibly can. Use others to reference and try your best to just have an open mind in these situations. There's nothing wrong with not liking or liking something, and I'll never strike you down for not liking what Vive is, as I understand as a whole how speculative this is. I no longer treat it as a sole investment because I really have loved the community I've been able to get to know when it comes to this. There's a lot of problems with the community as well, I get that, but the people I've been able to connect with through Vive is something I never would have actually expected. I'm able to help people learn and understand their research techniques a little bit more, whilst also developing my knowledge as I gain a better understanding of the improvements and the downfalls that Vive have been able to make so far. I wanted to make this video just to try and give a better logical perspective on Vive and not looking at it emotionally. Trying to look at it from a business perspective as well as a personal investment perspective or a collecting perspective. There's a lot of routes that you can take with this, and every single one of you are going to be different. But I would love to hear your thoughts about Vive just as a whole. Is it a company that you truly believe in? Is it something that you believe others should get involved in? And how have you felt being involved in Vive if you already are? I'd love for you to let me know down below. I know the video on the screen right now will be something you'll love to watch. Have a fantastic day.